Am I the a-hole for making my parents choose between my sister going to jail or replacing my car with their vacation money? Plus many updates. I, female 17, live with my parents. I have an older sister at 29 that they had when they were super young. Like I think my mom was 19 and my dad was 18. They did not do a great job with her and she has a lot of problems. She is chronically unemployed and she is a thief. She has 2 kids that are okay. They live with us as well because her boyfriend didn't want them around. I like the kids, but they're spoiled little brats my parents dote on to make up for being crappy parents to their mom. My parents won't let me put a lock on my door because it is their house and they don't want that. No problem. I talk to the kids and explain about what would happen if they came into my room without permission. So we have an understanding. Well, my sister broke up with her boyfriend and she needed a place to stay. I begged my parents not to let her stay with us. They declined, so I begged again for a lock for my door. No dice. I have to go to school, so I can't guard my stuff at all times. When I came home on Friday, I found my car absolutely trashed and the side of it destroyed. My sister had gone into my room, found my spare key and taken my car, then lost control on the ice after a day of eating crap and tossing fast food wrappers everywhere and sideswiped a tree. When I saw my car, I was livid. I told my parents that I expect her to pay to fix it. They said she didn't have any money. So I said that I would call my grandparents as they helped me get the car and insurance. After talking with my grandfather, I came back to talk to my parents. I said that the insurance would cover fixing or replacing my car depending on the damage, but that I would have to file a police report and that my sister would probably be charged for stealing my car. They begged me to tell insurance that she had permission. I said nope. So rather than go through insurance, they are replacing my car, but they're using money that they had set aside to take me and my nieces to Orlando next summer for my graduation. It's fine. I can do without seeing Disney World again. But my parents, sister, and nieces are upset with me and saying that I'm an a-hole for denying my nieces the opportunity to go on vacation that they never had. I just asked them if a lock for my door would have been cheaper. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I just asked them if a lock for my door would have been cheaper. Legend. Heck yeah. I hope you learned what not to do by watching her older sister. My other favorite line is, my sister, parents, nieces are all mad at me. Like, why would a sister have the nerve to be mad? She stole the car, and it's her own fault her kids will be disappointed. Opie's parents suck too for enabling this absurdity. Not a-hole, Opie. The children are upset that they did not travel. The parents are upset that they were forced to take responsibility for their Golden Girls' actions. The sister is upset because she's a narcissist, and these types of people will always blame someone else. She will never accept the blame. Not the a-hole, and you still need a lock. I have a security cam, and I have evidence. It was better than a lock in this case. Add a lock and keep the cam. As a thief, your a-hole sister could still pick the lock and take anything again. Not the a-hole, and your parents are still bad parents to her and to her kids. Letting kids get away with everything and not having to face the consequences is, in my opinion, abusive because then they have no idea how to function in the real world. If your parents had actually learned anything about parenting, they'd make your sister deal with this, or would at least force her to get a job to repay them. If they did that, then the kids wouldn't miss out on Disney. Every single aspect of this has been your parents' fault, and they're still failing. Came here to say this. She's 29 and living with her parents while they raise her kids. Seems like a no-brainer that she should be working, and all money going to repay for car repairs until it's paid back. Mini update. Hey, I just got home from school. There was a deadbolt on my bedroom door, and my mom gave me a key. She says that she is keeping the other one for emergency. I agreed, as long as it was only for emergencies. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend to help pay his biological daughter's tuition? This all started 17 years ago when my friend and his girlfriend, now married, gave birth to my daughter Jasmine. They had a baby they didn't want and protected fun and no abortion and gave it to me. I was friends with this guy for a couple of years, and my wife was infertile and was devastated we couldn't have kids. So, they gave us the baby and life was good until the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit hard for us and my wife lost her job. Thankfully, I got a better job and make money now, enough to support needs and barely scrape by for my daughter's tuition. Now, on the other hand, my friend and his wife are living on cruise ships. He makes a lot of money, so much that he basically lives on cruises and owns a nice condo in Honolulu. They wanted to visit my daughter, and during dinner, fancy restaurant paid by them, offered to pay 20% of my daughter's tuition. My daughter asked why not more, and they told her that she wasn't their responsibility as they gave her to me and my wife. Dinner was very awkward after that, and outside I called my friend in a hall for not paying my daughter's tuition. I said he makes very good money, and he can afford to pay the tuition. He told me off and left and went back to his fancy condo, might I add. Meanwhile, my daughter was in her room crying, claiming she hates her father. So much so that she blocked all contact with her biological parents and claimed she hates them and never wants to speak to them again. I don't know how I will cover the 50 grand. It's basically half my salary over 2 years. So am I the a-hole? Info. You say gave you their daughter. Was there not a legal adoption? What do the adoption papers say about what they owe you? Was support addressed at all? You seem to simultaneously want this to be a foster child when it benefits you and an adoption when that does. And I'm completely unclear on which is true. If you adopted her, they are not her parents anymore. They are people offering you a gift, one you seem incapable of taking without sabotaging it. Also, why are you waiting till she's 17 to pay for school? You could have saved with pennies on the dollar if you'd started a college fund 17 years ago. And now you're trying to figure out how to scramble. Did you just figure and tell your daughter to expect that rich bio dad would save the day? Because it sure sounds that way. Your daughter had been primed to ask for the full amount, and that audacity doesn't come from nowhere. She wanted to go to some college with her friends. She told us, we applied, she got in, and now we have to pay. And we didn't start a college fund because we thought the parents would pay for it. They told us no, that we had to start it instead, and my wife yelled at them. You and your wife are the parents, you idiot. You're the a-hole. You wanted their child, which means she is your responsibility. 20% was very generous. Good job for being entitled and raising an entitled daughter. The way my eyes bugged at the why not more? I mean, can these people get more entitled? And now you get 0%. Of course, you're the a-hole. This is important from OP's comments. OP also neglected to mention the following. They didn't just offer to pay 20%. They offered to pay 20% of the tuition and to pay off her dorm on campus or an apartment off campus. They also wanted to give her $5,000 to spend on food, which I think they need to send more. Oh, and apparently, they also paid for 75% of his daughter's car. They have been incredibly generous, despite having no financial obligation to him, and he still demanded more. These people gave you the gift of parenthood when you were struggling with infertility and not sure if you would ever have a child. They literally gave you their child and trusted you to be a good parent to her rather than giving her up for adoption elsewhere. And now you're acting like they're a-holes for not bankrolling you as a parent? Either your child is yours or she isn't. If you love her and you consider her to be your daughter, then it is not any other adult's responsibility to financially provide for her education, including the adults whose egg and sperm created her. And that's the grossest part of all of this, that you don't even see that you are literally negating your own parental connection to your daughter for a money grab. You're saying that she's your daughter, except when you want money from your well-off friend and then she's his? It's beyond horrifying. Do what every other parent who does not have a wealthy friend does to manage their child's education. You should have been saving money or take out student loans or apply for scholarships. That man is not our parent. If he were, you wouldn't be. You're the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for walking out of a babysitting gig after I found out that a kid was diabetic? I, 18 female, babysit for several families in my neighborhood. One of the families that I babysit for recommended me to this woman who is new to the neighborhood. She contacted me on Wednesday asking if I could babysit her 2 kids on Friday evening through Saturday afternoon. Apparently it was her friend's birthday, and they were spending a night in the mountains to celebrate. She asked me to show up a little bit early so that she could go over things with me. Nothing abnormal, especially since I've never met them before. I show up and she starts going over the usual stuff, and then she starts talking about insulin and blood sugars. Apparently, one of the kids, 5-year-old, has type 1 diabetes, and she didn't think that it would be important to let me know beforehand. I have zero experience caring for diabetic children. So I told her that I wasn't comfortable. And she just said, "Oh, don't worry, it's easy," and then tried to show me how to give an insulin injection. I also told her that I am squeamish around needles, and she kind of laughed it off and continued trying to teach me. I finally had to cut her off and basically told her that unfortunately, I wasn't comfortable caring for a diabetic child on such short notice, especially since she'll be hours away, and probably drunk, let's be honest. She started freaking out and begging me to stay, as she didn't want to miss her trip. It seemed like she was about to cry as I was leaving, which made me feel bad. I texted her when I got home and basically said that in the future I would be willing to try, but I'd like to have some kind of trial run, and we could build up to overnight once I actually knew what I was doing. She read my text but didn't respond. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Since you are neither qualified nor comfortable with performing such a task, you made the right choice. Not the a-hole. As a teacher, my wife has 2 kids in her class with diabetes, and she and other staff had to have special trainings, not for just administering insulin, but also to understand blood sugar levels, the effects of food, etc. This is not the kind of stuff you learn in a 5-minute chat before someone walks out the door and entrusts their kid to you. Both my parents had to work with my endo nurse to learn how to give injections, and they still don't like doing it. I would never ask someone I barely know to understand a care that a type 1 needs. Even nurses at some schools I've gone to had to get retrained when I started there, because I was their first type 1 in years and was using equipment that they had never used. Even when I was diagnosed, I was in the hospital for type 1 training for 3 days to learn what I needed to do to not die. Asking someone to learn all that in 5 minutes seems impossible to me. My mother is a nurse, and my dad was still in hospital for 2 days to be trained when he started on injections. Type 1 diabetic here. Totally not the a-hole. Especially because you have zero experience administering insulin or dealing with lows. Minor mistakes on dosage can have serious negative consequences. Same with waiting too long to take insulin. That mom should know better. Good for you for walking away from that risky situation. T1 here. Can you imagine if the kid has low blood sugar in the night? OP might not have even woken up to catch it. And given the kid is getting injections and not on a pump, there's probably no CGM. Seriously, T1 also and horrified at this mother's thoughtlessness. If it was a teenager who could mostly handle their own care, maybe it would be okay to give a 5-minute rundown. But a 5-year-old? Not the a-hole. She blindsided you and was hoping for the best. Even if the kid just needed to take a pill at bedtime, that sort of thing should have been disclosed when you took the gig. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I won't go home for Christmas unless they get me a gift? My 19 male sister Bree 17 is a brat. My parents spoil her rotten. And if she doesn't immediately get her way, she will throw a tantrum, and my parents will always give in to whatever she asks for. I wouldn't say she got in the way of me or our brother, 23, getting anything, but it was always really obvious who got more. My parents emailed me asking if I would be okay with doing a low-stress Christmas this year, as in nobody would get gifts for anybody else. We would just spend time together. I was fine with this, since I don't want anything anyway and it would make things less stressful like they said. So I called them to let them know, and they immediately told me what to get Bree. I was confused and said, I thought we weren't doing gifts this year. My mom said, yeah, but Bree's different. You know how she'll get if she doesn't get something. Besides, she's still a baby. This made me mad. Not because I wanted gifts, but because it felt like Bree was getting to be the favorite again. I hung up and looked on the family Amazon account, and they have already gotten her a brand new tablet, a bunch of accessories for it, a name brand giant makeup case, and loads of smaller things. I called them back and told them that I won't come home for Christmas unless I get a gift. It doesn't have to even be a fraction of what they spent on Bree. It could be literally the smallest thing. I just want one gift. They told me I'm being childish and they thought they raised me better. I told them that was the deal and hung up. I told my housemates that I might be staying here over the break, and when I explained why, they said I'm being immature and that my parents don't owe me anything because I'm an adult now. I told them the gift is the point, is that Bree is obviously being treated differently from me, but they said it's because she still lives with them and is still a kid, and that I should grow up and stop being entitled. I still think I'm justified, but now I wonder if I'm being an a-hole? Not the a-hole. The rules were no one gets a present. But now the golden child has to have a bunch of gifts, including gifts from everyone so she doesn't get upset. Scratch that. For your own mental health and well-being, it's time to consider low to no contact with them. Don't keep setting yourself up to get hurt because your parents obviously favor your sister. Your parents obviously favor your sister. You're a whole 19. This "you're an adult" argument is ridiculous. She always been favored even before you were 19. Your parents have made it clear they favor one child, and that child exploits it to the fullest extent. There are people out there who may not be blood related to you, but will be better family than these people. Find them. Go live your life. Don't keep running back to people who make you feel less than because family. They're not bad people. They love me and I love them. They went to my cross-country games and all that. They weren't neglectful. They just have this huge blind spot when it comes to my sister, and I don't want that one thing to keep making me feel bad. I didn't say there were bad people. Their actions make you feel bad and less than your sister. I'm sure they love you, but she's the golden child hands down. That's always going to be the case, unfortunately. You can continue to try to discuss it with them, but you know how that's going to go. If you can't afford it, I would suggest getting therapy to help you out here. A therapist would be able to help you come up with boundaries and better ways to handle this than me or anyone else here. Not stay whole. Buy your sister a book on recovering from golden child syndrome and have it delivered to the house during Christmas dinner. Your first Christmas on your own is hard, but lean into it. Fuzzy PJs all day, Die Hard, candy for breakfast and bacon for dinner were how I coped when I was your age. And now my kid and I do those things together. Man, that sounds perfect. I suddenly feel a lot less bad. Lol. It really is wonderful. Do all the things you'd get grief for doing on Christmas because they make you happy. I strongly suggest a whimsical onesie, and I hope you have a really merry, comfy slacker Christmas. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my daughter back to her biological mother? Original post. To avoid confusion, my daughter Millie, 14, is biologically my niece. So what happened was, years ago when Millie was about 3, my sister/her mom Layla, 38, left to work in another country, leaving Millie in my 44 male care. Millie's father died before she was born. Layla had promised to send money for me to take care of Millie and that she'd call and visit as often as she could, until she could take Millie to live with her permanently. After she left, she called probably 3 times in the first 2 months and then went AWOL. For years I'd tried to find out what happened and assume the worst, only to hear from one of her friends a couple of years later that she got married to someone else and has an entire new family. I was heartbroken because Millie would ask when her mom was coming back, and I never knew what to say except soon. But even she grew tired of it and realized when she was about 8 that her mom wasn't coming back anytime soon. That's if she was coming back at all. Because of this situation, me and my wife were granted parental rights to Millie, and she couldn't have been happier that we were officially her parents. Well, what do you know? After 11 years, Layla finally graced us with her long overdue return last week, along with her new very wealthy family and 2 children. Most of my family was happy with her return, but me, my mom, dad, and my wife were nothing short of furious. She tried to explain, but all that we heard was I abandoned my own daughter and made a new family. As if that wasn't enough, she practically demanded her daughter back. Mom and dad weren't having it at all, and told her that Millie belongs with me and my wife, and that she no longer has any right to her. Welp, there she goes, screaming at me about stealing her daughter because I was infertile. And to hear that coming out from her mouth hurt me in a way I've never been hurt before, to the point where I cried and left. Me being infertile's always been my weak point, and for her to casually bring it up like that despite being my sister, broke me. For the next days, I prevented her from contacting Millie, and I haven't told her that Layla is back, because I'm scared I will lose my daughter. I'm a human being too. I get attached, especially to someone I've had to raise, that too out of my own pocket. Not that I'm complaining. I believe Millie's my daughter, and I can't let her go back to the very same woman who abandoned her. Does this make me the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. She did nothing to raise her for past 11 years, and your parental rights are legal. With that said, Millie's about 14 now, so perhaps the better way is to ask for her opinion and who would she prefer to stay with. As much as this was my biggest fear, I guess it's only fair she gets to make the decision. I was leaning towards everyone sucks here, but this comment about letting your daughter choose make you absolutely not the a-hole. Your sister is cruel and selfish. She will certainly go behind your back. And I'd even bet she would lie to your daughter about you blocking contact for all those years. Show that you're the honest parent. Be approachable. And I'm sure you'll get the outcome you want. Good luck with it all. How the heck could OP suck here? I guess raising a child for 11 years and then giving her to a parent that abandoned her once is a good idea? Seriously, what the actual heck? Not the a-hole. You are her parents. If the state has granted you parental rights due to child abandonment, you are her parent. If your daughter wants to see her biological mother, I wouldn't prevent her from doing it at the end of the day. However, you are still her parent. Edit. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. All your criticism is valid, and I really appreciate you guys for making me realize that I might lose my daughter by keeping the return of her mom away from her. I'd also like to apologize for the way I've phrased some of the things. By no means do I think of my daughter as some possession. She is her own person and doesn't belong to anyone. As such, I've changed the phrase belong to belong with to accurately represent what was meant. I love you guys for all the support you've given me, and I definitely will consult a lawyer. Me and my wife have agreed to tell Millie about her mother tonight, and we will make sure it's all about how she feels and not about us. Now for the first update. I would like to apologize for not responding to the comments and messages I've received lately. Things have been tough ever since we told Millie about Layla's return. After all the support and advice, you deserve an update on the situation. I don't even know where to begin, really. Everything has been a mess. Way too much happened the day after we told Millie. Since there's no word limit here, I'll try getting into as much detail as I can. That night, we told Millie that Layla had returned, and for a good few minutes, she was looking at us, as if waiting for us to say we were joking. But after she realized we were not, she broke down into tears and it hurt. Of course, she wanted to know more, and though we were hesitant, we ended up telling her about Layla and her new family. I had never seen her that furious. She was all over the place, throwing stuff around. And we let her because she needed to let it all out. For the night, she refused to talk to me since I should have told her the moment she came back, and my wife stayed with her for the night. Her anger subsided by morning, and we patched things up. At first, she wasn't sure if she wanted anything to do with Layla, but we let her make that choice, and she wanted to see her. And oh, so God help me with that woman. We set up the meeting for Millie and Layla, but she brought her entire family to the house, along with her expensive gifts. And everything went downhill from there. I need to mention a very important part that should have made Layla realize she truly abandoned Millie. Along with the family was her sister-in-law Tanya, who's about the same age as her. When both of them entered, Millie could not even recognize who amongst them was Layla, and they looked worlds apart from each other. I had hoped that was enough to convince her to see what she did, but she carried on and pointed out that she was Layla, all while attempting to get close to her, even when Millie was clearly distancing herself. It got so bad that my wife had to come in between them, and her husband had to pull her away. That's when she started yelling at my wife for coming in between her and Millie, also accusing my wife of replacing her. What was there to replace? She was never there to begin with. And wow, what a first impression she made to the kid she abandoned. Millie became infuriated once more and things were said. When I say she said what needed to be said, I mean it. It was a serious situation, but me and my wife were struggling to hide our smiles when Millie told Layla off. She called her cruel, selfish, disgusting, evil, and many more vile words to express her hatred towards her. Tanya had to take Layla's kids outside. Normally, I would not entertain the vocabulary Millie was using, but for this specific instance, I just had to allow it. She was too worked up after this, and I had to take her upstairs to calm down. Now it was just me and my wife versus Layla and her husband. And along came the usual chorus. She accused us once again, now saying we influenced Millie to hate her. She was in tears, and for a minute I felt sorry for her. My wife politely asked we discuss this like adults. Now the revelations begin, and honestly, I rest my case. As we were recalling events of the past and why Layla never contacted us again, Jeremy, her husband, was visibly confused. He looked lost. Completely lost to the point where I thought he wasn't feeling well, and I offered to take a walk. And well, we started talking about this matter and I was beyond shocked. According to him, When he and Layla met, she never said anything about a child, and only after the marriage did she reveal she had a child. Not by choice anyway, because he found out from one of my billion texts to her regarding Millie. She further lied and said my family forced her to give up her child to me because I was infertile and desperate for a child that shared blood with me. But it doesn't end there. When Jeremy wanted to read the rest of the texts, she deleted them because I was apparently insulting and making threats to her that were so disturbing she didn't want Jeremy to see them. Of course, I showed him the text from my phone, and he couldn't believe it. It gets even worse. It was said that I was preventing her from contacting Millie, and she didn't even want to involve the police in the matter because me and my family were dangerous. So she thought it was best not to contact us anymore to protect her new family. At some point, I was thinking to myself how incredibly stupid Jeremy was to believe Layla's blatant attempts to cover the fact that she abandoned a child. But I feel for the guy. He was probably so smitten with my sister, just like all her exes, that he failed to see through her pretentiousness. I didn't even get to ask why they chose to come back now, because Jeremy was angry and he went back inside fuming. They were fighting so loudly I had to send them outside. It was clearly going to get violent, and we had to physically separate the two. Jeremy took Tanya and the kids and left, leaving Layla there. My very empathetic wife let her stay in our house since she was wailing so much, and honestly, after all the lies, I couldn't care less about her. I did ask Millie if she was okay with Layla spending the night, but after seeing Layla break down like that, I wasn't surprised she let her stay. She made it very clear the only reason she was allowing it is because she's not like her, and that was enough to let me know we've been doing a good job raising her. She also said she was still waiting for her to explain why she abandoned her and why she chose to come back now. We did get to discuss how she felt about Layla overall, and needless to say, she was very disappointed with her approach. I took the chance to assure her she wouldn't be pressured to side with me and my wife, and that she can get to know Layla if she wants to. We would always love her no matter what. She assured me she wouldn't be going anywhere, and it was very emotional for me because my heart was at ease hearing her say that. Layla and Jeremy are still not talking, so Layla lives with us for now, since my parents don't want her at their house either, and my wife thinks it's too unstable to be left alone. But the more she delays us telling the truth, the faster her time is running out in the house. I just don't recognize my sister anymore. She was never like this. My parents raised her so well. I get she was traumatized by Millie's father's death, but surely it's not enough to change someone so drastically. And to abandon your child despite knowing you're the only parent they have left, then coming back after a long time to take her away from people who love her? It just makes it hard for me to sympathize with her. I doubt any one of us will take this to court, now that Layla's husband knows the truth. Give her a time limit. A week should be enough for her to get her act together enough to move forwards. Any longer than that, and you would be actively harming your daughter by having her around. Good luck on your next moves. Oh, don't worry about that. She has until tomorrow to answer Millie's questions. She can come up with the most saint of explanations, but the lies that she told her husband and his family will be her downfall. I know for sure nothing she says will ever convince Millie, and I did tell Layla that I'll drag her out myself if she doesn't leave tomorrow regardless of the explanation, and I would have the abandonment charges pressed against her. I just hope it doesn't come to that, and she just apologizes and peacefully exits our lives, because even now, I still haven't heard a single sorry from her. I can see she's taking advantage of my wife's empathetic nature, but I'm going to end it. Now for the final update. I've been noticing a lot of traction for my updates, and I can see you all want an update. As for the text messages, I've always kept them over the years ever since Layla went AWOL. They weren't just on one platform, but a lot more others. It was also advised by our lawyer to keep them, and that's how we also got Millie's custody. I know from the reader's perspective it seems everything happened fast, but I assure you it didn't. But I have to apologize. I cannot give you a detailed update about Layla's answer, at least not on a post. Yes, it is that bad. Layla's secret is only between me, my wife, and her. She told Millie it was because of her mental stability, but that was only surface level. Millie did tell her it was great that she eventually came back for her, but things are better with her gone, at least for now. The real reason would crush my daughter. We can't tell her until we're sure she can handle it, but I don't see us ever telling her something as horrible as this. Now I know my sister is dealing with her unresolved trauma that has made her the horrible person she is today. She has left, and I made her swear to never come back, but I know better than to take Layla's words for things, so I had to make sure in my own ways. I didn't do anything illegal if that's what you're thinking. Jeremy did come back before finally leaving to apologize to Millie about Layla's actions and told her she's always welcome at his home and can get to know her half-siblings if she wants to. I don't know what will happen between Layla and Jeremy, but for her sake, she had better lie herself out of this one too, because if she tells Jeremy what she said to me, she might not even see her other kids again. But then again, it would be good if the kids are raised by Jeremy and not Layla until she has seen a psychiatrist. I don't know how to feel about Layla now, because on one hand, I can see she's dealing with heavy unresolved trauma that needs professional intervention. But on the other hand, no mother feels the way she feels about my daughter. I am by all means going to delete this update after some time. Edit from a reposter. I heard back from Opie. Since he was not wanting to share the real reason Layla abandoned her daughter, had messaged him to make sure it would be okay to add this final update into this post, since it might result in a barrage of requests to hear what happened. He told me it was okay, because he was about to delete everything anyway. He did share Layla's story with me. I will tell you that Millie was not the product of an assault, as so many in the comments assumed. I asked how Millie was doing after all of this. He said she was handling it really well. I'm pasting this reply about Millie below. My daughter is much better than I thought she would be. Her life and daily habits haven't been affected, and we're moving on as a family. Poor Millie. I can't even imagine how traumatic this whole situation is for her. And for Jeremy and his kids too. I don't understand how Layla thought she could swoop in and play mom to the child she abandoned, or how she thought she could get away with all the lies. In Layla's mind, Millie's still a 3-year-old, because when Layla left, she froze the image of the 3-year-old in her head. Yes, she knows she's aged, and she's 14 years old now, but she still thinks of her as more or less the same person she abandoned 11 years ago. 3-year-olds adore their parents. They love them unconditionally, and when parents inflict trauma on their kids, the kids don't stop loving their parents. They stop loving themselves. You see this in child services cases. Young children will lie, gloss over, and scheme to protect their parents so they can stay with them, even when the parents are harmful and neglectful. Instead of telling a teacher, an 8-year-old will go full mom mode and care for their baby siblings, make sure everyone eats and house looks presentable, and never tell a soul out of fear of being taken from a violent alcoholic parent. That kind of mindset in Millie was probably very present when Layla left. Millie asked for her for years. However, Millie's 14 now, no longer a young child, not clouded to her mother's actions, and she can see Layla for what she is now. If Layla had come back when Millie was 5 to 10 years old, she probably could have had either partially or fully the reunion she had envisioned. Layla just didn't realize that the toddler she left is long gone, and in her place is a clever young woman ready for some answers. When parents inflict trauma on their kids, the kids don't stop loving their parents. They stop loving themselves. As someone severely mistreated by her parents, this comment stuck a needle in my heart and made me tear up. You are so right. It took me so long to love myself over the people who willfully broke me. Thank you for this poignant assertion. I'm sorry. I have a son who is a toddler. He thinks the sun shines out of my rear end. Want to be adored like a celebrity, but don't have any marketable talents. Become a parent. My son thinks I am the finest chef, the funniest comedian, the most beautiful and smartest person, and the kindest, most wonderful human being in the world. Sometimes I need to do things he doesn't like. Like today, he could hardly breathe because he was so snotty, and I had to briefly pin him to safely scoop it out with a Q-tip. When the snot has been cleaned up and I have let him loose to do what he pleases, and what does he do? He crawls into my lap so I can comfort him, because his mind works under the assumption that I am so kind, smart, and wonderful, that whatever I do was either necessary or he deserved it. When normal people see the way a child loves and trusts, the normal reaction is to break your own back to protect them from pain, hurt, and suffering. Whatever they did, it wasn't your fault. You didn't deserve it, and the blame lies on them. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that he got exactly what he wanted and he needs to stop being selfish? I have an old college friend, Nick, 32 male, and he has a fiancée, Sophie, 24 female. They've been together 3 years, and Nick has repeatedly suggested an open relationship, to which Sophie has refused. Until a few months ago when he said he'd only propose if she agreed to try an open relationship. She agreed. I said to him at the time that he was an A for it. But he said he was just acting in his best interests. Now, Nick wanted an open relationship so he could see Anna, 29 female, a girl we knew from college who he always had a thing for. But she was married from when she was 18 to 26, so we never had a chance until recently. He hasn't had a chance to see her yet because she had been living with her sick mom, and they can't afford to rent a hotel room. Now, the issue is that Nick showed up at my house last weekend with a suitcase, absolutely livid, and asked to crash on my couch. He said Sophie had gone out to dinner and slept with a male model, and that she was cheating because he hadn't had a chance to see Anna yet, and it wasn't fair for her to see someone so much hotter than Anna. Not that Anna isn't attractive. I basically laughed at him and told him this is exactly what was going to happen, and that it was being selfish expecting Sophie not to see anyone or to see people less attractive than her, as she's very attractive, and I don't know why she's with Nick, to be honest. He went off on me for not being supportive and stormed out. It is trying to turn our friend group against me for not supporting him. I've taken a few days to think about it, but I still can't decide. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Well, if it isn't the consequences of his own actions. Not an a-hole. He asked for it. He got it. Looks like someone fooled around and found out. This is literally the way this goes 90% of the time. I've even experienced a friend in this situation. The a-hole partner wants to cheat with permission and overinflates their chances of being able to in their head. They wear the partner down until they agree, and surprise, surprise, it's the unwilling partner that goes out and gets them some. Not the a-hole. It sounds like a super crappy friend. Not the a-hole. Dude didn't want an open relationship. He just wanted permission to cheat. I hope Sophie has realized that the grass is greener on the other side. Not the a-hole. He doesn't want an open relationship. He wants to date whoever he wants without any repercussions while his girlfriend has to be 100% loyal to him. He said he was just acting in his best interests. Translation? I only care about myself, so everything I do is justified if it benefits me. Rolls eyes at Nick. Not the a-hole. He needs no sympathy. He had a woman in mind when he asked and requested an open relationship, so he could keep Sophie as backup if this thing with Anna didn't work out. He probably thought Sophie wasn't hot enough to get someone, or thought Sophie would be so in love with him she wouldn't take advantage of what is frankly his demand. Oh man, I hope that he ends up without Sophie or Anna. I think you should lay it out to your friends group the scam he was perpetrating on the women in his life, and how whiny he was when the scam blew up in his face. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking him how old he is? I'm writing this at work right now because it just happened. I was pushing a cart full of stock down the aisle when this guy stopped me. His exact words were, "Hey, I noticed you because you're really pretty. Would you maybe want to grab dinner or something sometime?" Now for some context, I am 21 as of this year, and this dude that stopped me to ask me out looked like he could be absolutely no younger than 37 or 38. I'm sorry if this offends you, but in my eyes, this is a little bit creepy. I was honestly shocked because I thought this guy was just gonna ask me for directions or help or something. And in my shock, all I could think to do was look at this guy and ask him, "How old are you?" disbelievingly right to his face. His only response to me was, "Well, you don't have to be a witch about it." And then he walked away. So now I'm just here at my podium wondering whether or not I was actually a witch about it. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was just genuinely kind of shocked. I accept whatever judgment you see fit past Reddit. I just want a little clarity. Oh, hell no. You are not the a-hole. Good for you to ask that question and put him on the spot. Well done. Absolutely not the a-hole. OP, first of all, you weren't being an a-hole. And second, if there's ever a time to be an a-hole, it's when someone's being creepy like this. Was it gracious? No. But hey, guess what? You don't have to be gracious to men 15 plus years older than you who are hitting on you at work. Dude wants to shoot a shot at some random much younger woman in her workplace. He can develop a thick enough skin to deal with all the possible responses, including this one. Guys, don't steamroll in and ask a retail worker to go out with you while they're on a job. They're at work. They're stuck there. They're a captive audience who will get in trouble if they piss you off. A really crappy dynamic to be hitting on people. Especially when they're much younger than you. Not the a-hole. OMG this. There was another post on here a week or so ago with the same issue. It is so weird and just annoying to ask someone out while they're at work. She is being paid to be nice and assist customers with a friendly face. Not to get accosted by any guy or girl who finds her attractive. Let her do her job. Jeez. Not the a-hole. And OP, you don't ever owe anyone the time of day just because they feel like you do. One time a guy asked me to dinner as I was cleaning his puppy's piss off the floor. Not day-hole. If he really thought you were significantly older than you were, he would have just told you how old he was. That he didn't pretty much proves to me that he knew he shouldn't have been anywhere near you. It's absolutely creepy. People in their mid to late 30s have no business going anywhere near people your age like that. And I say that as someone in their 30s. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving a kid, who I don't know, a ride to the hospital after he broke his leg? This happened yesterday, but I, 28 male, was at my local mall doing shopping, and when I finished up, I went out to my car. I parked in an above-ground parking building. When I got to my car, I noted there was a bunch of kids. I'd say 14 to 16. Rough guess since I didn't bother asking. They were skateboarding. Just doing what kids do, really. Then suddenly, I heard a blood-curdling scream, and I look over and I see a kid on the ground holding his leg. So I walk over to see if everything was okay. To say the least, everything was not okay. The kid broke his leg in a bad way. Not sure how, as I wasn't really paying that many attention. But was for sure broken. Everyone was freaking out, and I said I'll call the ambulance, which just made the kid cry harder, saying something along the lines like, "My parents are going to kill me." His friends were saying I should just give him a ride to the hospital as it was only 3 blocks away. I thought for a moment, but opted to still call for an ambulance. I called the ambulance. They showed up like 5 minutes later. The whole time everyone was trying to convince me to just drive him, and I stayed firm of, nope, not gonna happen. The ambulance is on the way. After the kid was put into the ambulance, and I gave my statement to the police, police show up to calls with ambulances to make sure they have all the needed info. The kids were all still complaining that I could have just given him a ride to the hospital instead of making his parents go into debt. Man, I think they watch too much American TV because we're in Canada. No one goes into debt for an ambulance ride here. Last time I had to get an ambulance to the hospital, it costed me like $50. Thank you, Canadian healthcare. Anyways, later when I came home, I was telling my girlfriend about what went down, and she called me an a-hole too, because you should have just done the right thing. The kid was hurt, and you have a car. And I said back, and ambulances are a thing. And I'm a total stranger to this kid and like, what would have happened if the kid somehow got more hurt while in my car? Not trying to catch a case. Wanted some outside perspective. Am I the a-hole for not giving the kid a ride to the hospital? Not the a-hole. Taking charge of an unknown, vulnerable minor whom you don't know, without their parents' consent? Nope, nope, nope. You did the right thing. Yes, if anyone should be concerned about going into debt here, it's Opie. Moving someone with a severe break can cause further damage if you don't have medical training. Driving away with a minor stranger in your car is obviously also a legal minefield. If ambulances didn't exist, and no adults the kid knew were reachable, I would have driven him. But ambulances do exist, so... I'm a nurse, and I would not touch a kid with such an injury. I would have done exactly what you did. It could be the kid was more worried about getting in trouble with his parents because maybe he was supposed to be home doing chores or whatever. Not a hole. Definitely not a hole. Liability if you took him. You made a smart move. That's what I was thinking. Like, the kid could have been hurt even more, and no way do I want to deal with all that. Legally in the US, and likely similar in Canada, it would work like this. You would likely be protected by Good Samaritan laws by acting as a rescuer. But if you put that kid in your car and then get in an accident by, let's say, in the intensity of the moment, and checking on the kid in your rearview mirror you run a red? Boom! Now you've potentially incurred liability. It just isn't worth the risk. You assessed the situation and called the services that were designed to handle this. And that too is a universal healthcare jurisdiction. There was nothing a-holish about your response. I'd be kinda annoyed at your girlfriend. Not a-hole. Visibly broken leg? Ain't no way I'm moving anyone in that state. You likely would have caused more damage. Even just thinking about what the leg looked like sends shivers down my spine. Like, no blood or anything, but it was for sure broken. Just bent like the other way. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for a hotel room? My friends and I want to spend a week at a resort near the beach. My friend and her boyfriend are bringing his buddy and I'm going alone. The plan was my friend and I share a hotel room, and her boyfriend and work buddy share another. We drove here 7 hours, and the buddy was flirting with me, and I realized my friend and boyfriend was trying to get us together. I was not into it. He smokes and smelled fish. We got to the hotel and my friend and boyfriend came to me and asked if we could swap rooms so they could stay together. I was not happy since it means I would have to stay with a buddy whom I didn't know at all. He was okay with it, but I wasn't, and asked the front desk if they had an extra room. They did, and it was expensive, but I didn't want to stay with a man I didn't know anything about. The week was okay, but Buddy was ignoring me the whole time, probably because of the hotel room stuff. We got back and then he sent me a text saying I had to pay half his hotel room because he was under the impression he only had to pay half. I told him no, he got the whole hotel room, and so he should have to pay for the whole hotel room. My friend called me to ask me to pay because Buddy doesn't have a job and can't afford it. I felt betrayed since it was her and her boyfriend who changed plans and tried to put me in a room with a guy who I didn't know. We argued and she hung up pissed. Now for the comments. Not today home. He was under the impression he only had to pay half. So were you. Opie's friend and her boyfriend should be paying for an extra room. What appalling behavior on their part. Who does this? Like seriously, friends set up friends on blind dates all the time, but hatching an idiotic plan to try and force her to share a room with her, in their mind, date, for an entire week? They caused this mess. You're right, they should pay for it. And Opie needs new friends. Not today home. This is insane. Your friend is legit awful and the guy's gross and creepy. It's not okay to try to force someone to sleep in the same room as a stranger because you think they should have action. Gross, gross, gross. Consent anyone? Super proud of you for getting your own room. And don't enable this guy by giving him any money whatsoever. Not today home. The whole situation was gross. They changed the terms. Not you. Stand your ground. Sounds like your friend and her boyfriend need to cover his half of the room. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband we can only help support his artist sister if she gets a real job? My husband, 39 male and I, 37 female, have been married for 8 years and have 2 kids. He and his sister-in-law, 31 female, have always been close despite the age difference. There's also a brother in between who isn't relevant to this post. Sister-in-law is an artist who has been working full-time on her art since graduating from school several years ago. I respect art and believe it can absolutely be someone's full-time job, but the fact is that she's never made any money off her art aside from selling the occasional piece to a family friend. I don't want to pass judgment on her art because I'm no expert. STEM person here, but she's been trying to make it for years and years at this point and hasn't gained any traction. And I don't think she's going to start making money off it anytime soon. Still, she considers her art her career, and my husband is supportive and proud of her. We even own multiple pieces of hers. Her parents were fully supporting her financially until a couple years ago when she moved in with her boyfriend, who took over. She and her boyfriend broke up earlier this year, and she moved into a nice apartment funded by her parents. Unfortunately, my in-laws recently passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. It was devastating. What they left behind will support sister-in-law for a while, but not forever, and not at the standard of living she's accustomed to, which includes having to move out of her current apartment. And now husband told me he wanted to give her money every month so that she can keep working full-time on her art and maintain her standard of living. We both fortunately have high-paying jobs and a lot already saved for our kids, so we could easily afford it. However, I don't like the idea of supporting a non-disabled adult forever who could make her own living but chooses not to. I'm okay with helping her out temporarily while she starts working and figures out how to make her own living, but not forever. I don't care if she starts out at minimum wage. She just has to be doing something that will make money and start her path to independence. I did slip up and call it a real job to my husband, and now she and husband are both telling me I'm an a-hole, because if she has to work full-time, she won't have time anymore for her art, and that being an artist is a real job already. He says I don't understand the sibling bond since I'm an only child. His other brother agrees with me and says it would be about time sister-in-law got out into the real world. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Sister-in-law has submitted to work to many galleries, / tried to sell her art online via social media, / etc. She's tried to sell to a larger audience than family friends / family members, but hasn't gotten any bites. So her not selling her work widely isn't for lack of trying, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it's because she's not great at promotion, or because the market just doesn't want what she's selling. NTA, NTA, NTA. I am an artist And I am working to sustain my art career on the side until it can become my full-time job. Current job is slightly related to art though. No capable adults should expect to piggyback on other people's work for the rest of their lives. That is really disgusting. Your husband is slightly a-holish. Just because I get wanting to help out immediate family, especially since you guys are well off, but your sister-in-law is a massive a-hole. She needs to spend a bit of time in a less affluent part of the world and become a fully formed adult in my opinion. Yep, if it doesn't pay the bills, it's a hobby, not a job. There is no reason why sister-in-law can't continue working on her art with hopes of one day making it, while working a paying job to support herself. Many people who are trying to become actors, writers, and artists do because they didn't have wealthy parents and still needed to eat. Not the a-hole. Tell your husband by real job, you meant paying job. If we could all stop working to pursue our passions, everybody would all starve. Sister-in-law needs to start learning that passions don't pay rent or buy food. Not the a-hole. Tell your husband you'll be quitting your high-paying job to be an artist. So he'll have to provide for the family 100%. And you won't be taking on any additional childcare/household duties because, after all, your art is a full-time job. See if he thinks it's still a real job.